Hello, I'm Paloma from Book Lover Paloma, and today I'm going to be doing a book talk on a book by my second favorite author, and that book is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, the first book in that series, The Sword of Summer. And this book is by Riordan, my second favorite author. I am in love with the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympus series, and so I was really excited when I got to read this book, the first book in his new series based on Norse mythology, which I was really excited to read this book. I'm gonna start with the spoiler-free section, and I might say some things that seem like spoilers, but they're not spoilers because it says that in the little thing paragraph right here. And so yeah, they're not spoilers. So The Sword of Summer is the first book in Riordan's new trilogy, Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. And Riordan, he's done books on Greek mythology, the Percy Jackson the Olympian series, Egyptian mythology, the King Chronicles, and Roman mythology, the Heroes of Olympus. And in this book, he is focusing on Norse mythology, which is basically like the Vikings and everything. Like, it has like Loki and Thor, and like it's really cool. It's a really good book. And so the main character in this book is this 16-year-old orphan. He lives on the streets. His name is Magnus Chase. And if you read the Percy Jackson books, the last name sounds familiar. Chase, Annabeth Chase. Annabeth Chase and Magnus Chase are cousins. They are cousins. And so this Annabeth's cousin, Magnus. And so he finds out he is a child of a Norse god. And he doesn't know who he is, who his dad is yet. Because told you he's an orphan. His mom died. So he's been an orphan living in the streets. And then one day his family is trying to track him down, and he's like, why are they doing this? Because his family hasn't cared for him like for the longest time, and so he's curious and wants to find out more. And he meets with his uncle Rudolph, with his uncle Randolph, and his uncle Randolph then goes on saying a bunch of things about Norse mythology, and that this family attracted a lot of things. And so Magnus is like, what's going on? And the Sword of Summer is like a weapon that he has to get. That's why it's called the Sword of Summer. And so his life becomes twisted with Norse mythology because he's a son of a Norse god, and things just get really good in this book. And then while he's talking with his uncle, a bunch of things from his past, from his life, start making sense. And then he finds out that he's kind of in part with Doomsday. And then the beginning, when he finds out about all this stuff, a fire giant attacks, and then there's this line like in the part in the beginning right here where summary, and I really want to read it because it's a really good line. And that line is, sometimes the only way to start a new life is to die. So that basically hints on Magnus is gonna die. He's basically gonna die, and he's somehow gonna come back to life. So that's what I'm gonna say for the non-spoilery. I'm pretty sure I kind of spoiled it. I'm so sorry if I did, but that's basically what this is about, like the beginning of the book. Now I'm going to like rant about this book, what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I think of Riordan's new series. So Magnus Chase and the God of Asgard is Norse mythology, and I'm just going to say something. I am so confused. I was getting so confused. Because there's like these 9 worlds, and there's like so many words I can't pronounce, and I was getting so confused with all these worlds and these terms and like the magical beings. Like, this book was harder for me to read than the Percy Jackson and the King Chronicles, mainly because it didn't catch my attention as those books did. Greek mythology, I love Greek mythology. Egyptian mythology, I find it really interesting. Norse mythology, I read this book. I know a little bit about it, not much, but it's really confusing for me for some reason. So all this time while I was reading this book, it was kind of confusing, especially keeping track of all those 9 worlds. There's 9 worlds, and in the back it has like a list, like a glossary, and like the 9 worlds, but it's like really didn't help at all because I was so confused. Magnus, I actually really like Magnus a lot. He kind of reminds me of Percy Jackson, kind of, but he's more he has more sarcasm. He has a lot more sarcasm than Percy Jackson. That's what I think, and I really like how Annabeth has a short part in this story. She's actually there for a little while. She's there in the beginning when she's looking with her dad for Magnus, and he's like, "That's Annabeth." And now probably every Percy Jackson fan who read the book, they're like, "Oh, that's Annabeth." They're like that. I know I was like that. And then the second part is when he's visiting his deathbed. She's like, "I knew you weren't dead," but that part really touched my heart because they hugged and they're cousins, and like it was really sweet. And then the last part she shows up is at the end, and I'm really curious because Annabeth's like, "I know what you've been through. I could help you. I know there's a place safe for you." When she said that, for some reason, the first thing that came into my mind was, Annabeth, wrong mythology. You do not want to take him there. Trust me, you don't. I'm pretty sure she thought that he was like the offspring of a Greek god, of course, because that's what she thought, but he's not. And at the end, in the last chapter, I guess they make a bet. She has gotten a crazier life, and I think they told each other about Greek mythology and Norse mythology. I don't know, cause the title is "I Lose a Bet," and so I'm like, did Annabeth tell Magnus all about Greek mythology and what she's been through, and did Magnus actually tell Annabeth what he went through and that he's part of Norse gods and stuff? And I don't know, and if they did, I don't know how Annabeth took it, because Annabeth's probably like first Greek gods, then Roman gods, then Egyptian gods, and now North gods. Like, what is going on? Like, what the hell? Like, really? And I really like Annabeth's appearance in this book. And one thing I really didn't like about this book was there wasn't a lot of romance. And I'm a hopeless romantic. I love romance in at least all the books I read. So not a lot of romance here. Like, basically none at all. Like there was Sam the Valkyrie. I can't say that. There was her, and she likes someone that Magnus knows. Amir. He works like the fafel or the food place, and she likes him. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I wonder where that's gonna go. But I'm wondering if Magnus is gonna get a love interest. Like, I'm wondering if the same thing is gonna happen to them as it happened to Percy and Annabeth. Like, are they gonna go on more quests together, and are they gonna start developing feelings for each other? Like, I really want to know if that's gonna happen, because I don't know if I want them to be together or not, because they act like they're brother and sister, and I really like that connection, but I don't really know if I want them to be together or not. And then there's also Magnus's two friends, the people who basically took care of him while he was homeless, living on the streets. That's Hearth and Blitz, and they're amazing. They're an elf and a dwarf, and they're amazing. I love them. I love Hearth. He's like amazing. He is deaf, so he uses ASL, American Sign Language, and that's really cool. And I really like how Rick Riordan incorporated ASL into this book. Like, I've never read a book with someone who speaks ASL who's deaf, and now, like, this is the first book I read that actually has a character like that, and I really liked it. And Hearth, how he went through a lot in his life. His parents basically branded him as unwanted, as a failure because he was deaf, and I I'm glad that he found Magnus and Blitz and Sam, and like they became like their own family, and I really like that. And then there's Blitz, who's like the dwarf who is in love with fashion. He's a fashionista, and I just love that. And he was also kind of branded as an outcast because dwarfs are supposed to be good builders, good crafters, good people who build things, and he not that good. He's more interested in fashion, and I really like that he's like that. So this book is a really good book. I really think you should read it, especially if you love a Percy Jackson fan. I'm gonna be honest, this is not my favorite book. Like, there are some things I didn't like about it. Maybe that has a part to do because I was really confused with all that Norse mythology. Like, Rick Riordan is really good at explaining mythology and everything, but I feel like in this book, he didn't explain it good enough for me, or maybe I just wasn't really reading it that good, or I don't know why, but this book just didn't grab my attention as his other books did. And the 9 worlds, I can't even pronounce them. There's many words here that I can't pronounce, and like a lot of words. And so when I read them, I'm just like, blah, 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 I'm like, what are these words? I don't know what these words are. And so it's kind of bothering me because when I try to say them out loud, they just come out like all weird. What I was surprised to see though is that Rick Riordan had an epilogue in this book. Is that how you say it? I don't know. But he had an epilogue in this book, and he never has epilogues in any of his books. And now he actually has one in this book. I'm like, what? And I really liked it because I want to know what's going to happen because apparently Randolph is working with Loki. And if you watch the Avengers movies and the Thor movies, or I don't know which one, I haven't watched any of those movies, but Loki is like Thor's evil brother. And I like how Rick Riordan in this book, he did not describe Thor and Loki like they do in the movies. Because whenever I think of Norse mythology and Thor and Loki, I think of the Avengers movie or the Thor movie. My image for Thor totally changed now with this book. Yeah, and I want to know what's going to happen with Randolph and Loki. And the second book coming out in fall next year is called The Hammer of Thor. And I think that has to do with Thor losing his hammer. Because in this book, Thor lost his hammer. So he sends Magnus, Sam, them to go get it, but instead they find like his backup weapon. So the hammer of Thor, I think that kind of has to do with Thor losing his hammer. Like I'm like positive that's what it's about. That's pretty much all I have to say about this book because I really didn't enjoy it that much. Oh, and before I forget, one of my favorite things of this book is the dedication. Because he dedicated it to Cassandra Clare, my third favorite author. He dedicated it to her, and he's saying, "Thanks for letting me share the excellent name Magnus." I really like how he dedicated this book to her. Like, I'm like, that's really cool. An author dedicating it to an other author, especially when it's my second favorite author dedicated it to my third favorite author. That's just amazing. And so yeah, and I also got a bookmark with this book. You see, it's like a new hero is born. It's Magnus Chase. Oh, and the wolf. Oh, I also remembered there were some Percy Jackson references in this book. Oh my gosh. First is when Magnus Chase gets his sword back, the Sword of Summer, and he wants the sword to change to something, not noticeable. And so he's like, why can't he turn into a pen? And then I'm like, Percy Jackson, Percy has a pen sword. And like, I like it how he thought the sword was like, talking to him. He's like, and so he thought the pen was like probably saying like, a pen sword? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, imagine if Percy heard that, because Percy has a pen sword, and it's not the stupidest thing ever. It's actually a really cool thing. So instead, he has like a pendant, and I think it's really cool. And then there's also a chapter that has a Heroes of Olympus reference. Oh my gosh, I just love that chapter title, because Rick Riordan came back with those funny chapters. Oh my gosh, those chapter titles with the funny chapters. It all started with Percy Jackson, and he had them in the Kane Chronicles, but then for the Heroes of Olympus, he like took them off, but now they're back in this book, and they're gonna be back in his new series, the Trials of Apollo 2, and I'm just really happy. The title name is Hearthstone Passes Out Even More Than Jason Grace, though I have no idea who that is. But everyone who's read Heroes of Olympus knows who Jason Grace is. So I just love how he put that reference in there, especially because everyone knows Jason Grace passed out a lot in the Heroes of Olympus books. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. And I just really liked it. And then the titles are just hilarious, like How to Kill Giants Politely, of course. And then there's Hey, I Know You're Dead, but Call Me Maybe. I'm just like, his titles are amazing. And then My Friend Involved from a Nope, I Can't Say It. And then one of the favorite ones, this is probably like the damn joke in Percy Jackson, but this is a hell joke. It's what the hell, you see? But it's spelled with only one L. What the hell? And I'm like, very funny, Rick Riordan. And I just really like how he's back with those funny chapter titles. So that's all I have to say for this book, Magnus Chasing the Gods of Asgard, Book 1, The Sword of Summer. That's the sword right there. His name is Jack. He talks. He is an awesome sword. I want Jack. A sword that talks. How awesome is that? Like Rick Riordan, you're like the coolest author out there. His imagination is like amazing. And so, this book, not my favorite of his books, but it's a really good book. I think you should read it. If you haven't read this book yet, I don't know what you're doing all the way here, but read this book. It's an amazing book. This book is amazing, though not as great as the other books I read, like Percy Jackson or Heroes of Olympus. I don't know why I'm singing, but I am. It was kind of hard for me to keep track of all those worlds and all those words and all those gods and goddesses. Like, this is just so confusing for me. So I'm gonna have to study. I'm gonna need to study on my Norse mythology. I can't even say Norse. So, good book. Now I'm gonna read the first and last quote of this book. The first sentence is, well, the title is "Good morning, you're going to die." So, yeah, I know. You guys are going to hear about how I died in agony, and you're gonna be like, "Wow, that sounds cool, Magnus. Can I die in agony too?" No, just no. So that's like the first 3 sentences, but like the first sentence is really short. So I just said that, and now the last one is in the epilogue, and that sentence is, "Oh yes, Randolph," Loki grinned. "You and I are going to have lots of fun." Ooh. I don't like Randolph. I don't trust him. He should die. Okay, so those are my thoughts on Magnus Chased and the Gods of Asgard, Book 1, The Sword of Summer. And now I have to wait 1 whole year again for his second book, The Hammer of Thor. But no worries, guys, because next year, May 3rd, The Trials of Apollos comes out, and we're gonna have more Percy Jackson adventures. I'm so excited for those books. I think I already said that. So that's it for my video today, and see you next time, or you guys will see me next time when I upload another video. So for now, see you later, goodbye, keep reading, stay in school, kids, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I'm weird like that. I'm crazy. I'm Paloma from Book Lover Paloma, and this was my book talk for The Sword of Summer. Goodbye.